Hello and welcome to Radiant and Inspiring TV. I am your host, Kylie Anderson, and I am so excited to have you here with me today. For episode 2, I have interviewed the very beautiful Cassie Mendoza-Jones from Elevate Vitality. Cassie is a kinesiologist and naturopath and the author of You Are Enough. She works with women who feel stuck, tired, unworthy, and disconnected to themselves, and with mindful, heart-centered entrepreneurs who want to grow their businesses from a space of ease and flow without burning out in the process. Through her writing, online courses and guides, private sessions, and social media presence, she helps them increase their self-belief, elevate their thoughts, and align their energy. Her lessons and insights have been featured in national and international publications such as Collective Hub, Clio, Body and Soul, Women's Fitness, and Gourmet Traveller, and on popular websites such as The Daily Guru, news.com.au, vogue.com.au, Sportlux, Marie Claire, smh.com.au. She's spoken at events and workshops all around Australia for a variety of companies such as Bar Body, LinkedIn, Morgan Stanley, and Eat Fit Food. Cassie is absolutely fabulous. She is a dear friend of mine, and I was so excited and privileged to be at her book launch just recently in Sydney. It was so awesome to be able to celebrate this huge milestone with her. She is just wonderful, and I know you're going to get a lot out of my interview with her today. So grab yourself a cuppa, get comfortable, and enjoy the next 40 to 45 minutes. Hi, Cassie. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you here. I've been following your work for a number of years now, and I'm very, very excited to be able to call you a friend as well. We've been online friends for a couple of years, I think, now. So it's really, really nice to be able to have you on my side in this capacity and share your beautiful wisdom and who you are with my audience. So thank you.
Yeah.
So let's dive straight in. I want you to tell me, who is Cassie? What do you do? What did you used to do?
Yes.
Go for it.
So I am an author, a kinesiologist and a naturopath now. And before this, I went to uni for a year, hated it. I would drive to uni, not find parking and be like, oh, too bad, and drive home. And I was doing PR then. And I moved out of that to do makeup artistry at night. So I was studying Monday, Wednesday nights, and some weekends while I was at uni for a little bit. And I loved the creativity. I loved, once I'd graduated, I loved working on a different set every day with new people and meeting new people and traveling. I studied in Canada for about 6 months doing my diploma. When I got back, I worked very hard. I got a makeup agency in about 14 months. Everyone was like, oh, it's going to take you 4 or 5 years and you'll have to work for free for about 3 years, and all of this, making it sound very difficult. And it can be really hard, but I worked very hard and I got an agency in 14 months, which was awesome. So I flew to Vanuatu for like a film clip, and I did makeup there, and it was awesome and I loved it. But after a little while, I started to crave more. I don't want to use the word stability, because even what I do now, it's different every week, but I just craved something that was a bit more using different parts of my brain and my mind in terms of what I was doing every day. Mm-hmm. And it's funny how the universe fully guided me into nutrition and energy work. I had been doing makeup on 2 different jobs in 1 week, and the 2 different models were studying at the nutrition college that I ended up studying at. So I'd never heard of this college before. Wow. I didn't have my finger on the pulse with nutrition or anything. I was very interested in nutrition. I'd been to see dietitians when I was younger, which messed up my eating a little bit. And so I'd had to do a lot of work already by the age of 23 to regulate my eating patterns. And I was quite educated in, I want to say I understood all the layman's terms about nutrition and health. So I was quite interested in it, and I would sometimes talk to the models about their diet, because you spend so much time with the models when you're the makeup artist.
Yeah.
And I would see a lot of them eat a lot of them eat really well, and they are wonderful in how they look after themselves. But quite a few that I would work with were understandably very stressed out and insecure about their bodies, and I saw a lot of disordered eating and a lot of confusion about what was healthy and what was not. So yeah, had these two makeup jobs in a week, and they both worked at the college, studied at the college. The one job was actually at a hair studio that was two doors up from this nutrition college. So I moved very quickly in my life. I think things through, but I act very quickly. So I made an appointment to see the careers person at the college.
Awesome.
I enrolled like the next week because
Wow.
I'd been thinking about not thinking about moving out of makeup, but I'd been thinking about what's my next thing. Like, am I meant to be here forever? And I kind of thought I was supposed to be a makeup artist forever. And then a friend of mine who's a stylist, we were on a shoot, and she said to me, "You might not be makeuping forever." Those are her words. And I was like, "Oh, really?" Like, I hadn't thought of it. I'd never thought that I might not be doing that forever. So yeah, long story short, I moved into studying nutrition. I'd always wanted to study kinesiology from almost the same time, but I chose nutrition first. Studied kinesiology the year after that while working. 2 years after that while still finishing some studies. I then started to study my master's in human nutrition.
Wow.
And after a while, and I was kind of doing makeup on the side, like private jobs and weddings and all of that, which was awesome because I didn't need to get a second job while I was building up my practice
So
or while
good.
yeah, it was amazing. I did actually work in a few clinics while I was studying, but that was more for the experience of working in a clinic and seeing how other people work and all of that. So that was really awesome. And so then I started studying my master's, which I thought I really wanted to do until I was studying my master's. And then I was like, wait, I think I'm doing this just to say I have a master's.
Yeah.
I was not interested at all. It was very public healthy, like it wasn't my jam. It was not energetic. It was not holistic. And to be honest, the two core subjects were almost identical to what I'd already studied. It's just that this was at master's degree level, so the assignments were much bigger as opposed to the assignments I'd done at at nutrition college. But the content was the same. So I'm like, why am I why am I putting myself through doing this while studying kinesiology? We'd also just gotten married and gotten a puppy. It was just so that was a really good lesson in quitting just when you don't want to do something, like not giving yourself a hard time and just saying, this isn't working. I don't want to be doing this. I'm doing this to get a piece of paper to show my clients. My clients don't care. It's not like I don't have clients. I was working. I had a wonderful business. So I took very early exits. Instead of doing 12 master subjects, I did 4 subjects, which got me a graduate certificate of human nutrition.
Okay. Wow.
As opposed to there's a grad certificate, a grad diploma, and then the masters. So you do 4, 8, or 12. And I was like, 4, get me done. And I've never looked at it again. It's on my website, but so that was a good lesson.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and now I'm here. So I see clients privately. I run not group one-on-one programs, but online programs. And my book just came out like last week about 8 days ago. So yes, that's professionally. And then personally, I've got an amazing hubby called Nick. I'm the eldest of 3 daughters. So Steph is an interior architect living in London with her fiance, who's Aussie. So they'll be moving back soon.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And my little sister Sammy is at uni studying visual communication. So my mom's an interior designer. My dad is a diamond merchant and designs. He's like wholesale diamonds. So he does jewelry stuff. So my whole family's been we are all very creative and very, it's really fun because everyone has their own thing and it's all different, but it's all very creative.
Definitely. And I love you paint as well, and I've seen some of your artwork and it's gorgeous.
Thank
so
you.
Beautiful.
Thank
I love
you.
that you got a creative family. That's really nice.
It's really fun. And even my granny paints. So I go to an art teacher and then my granny goes to my art teacher's mum.
Oh, I love that.
And my auntie she's got it like another job. She's a psychologist. Oh no, it's not psychologist, like psychoanalyst, I think. But she also does pottery. So she makes these beautiful pottery bags that she then varnishes and glazes. So yeah, my whole family is very creative.
That's awesome. So nice. I love creativity. I'm starting to get into that myself. Like my dad, he's really good at painting and all that sort of stuff. And I used to be the person that I can't draw, I can't paint, so I never did it. But ever since having Ava, I've wanted to do
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I don't know if it's from having a baby. I don't know, but something
Yeah.
within me was like, you need to be creative. So I've got my little
Yeah.
section in the garage set up. So I'm
So
teaching
nice.
myself to paint, and I just go out there and just like play with paints, and it's
Amazing.
only for me. So I
Yeah.
don't have that talk going on anymore. Oh, you can't do that. You can't do this.
Yeah.
It's like it's just
Yeah.
for
It's
me.
just
So
you. And that's so nice for Ava when she's old enough to paint, just to paint with you and
yeah.
to, like my mum always used to say when we would draw or paint when we were little, if we painted outside the lines or we made a mistake and we'd say, oh, I made a mistake, can I have a rubber? She'd always say there's no such thing as a mistake. Just,
Oh
like
yes.
draw a flower where you drew out of the line. So you'd
Oh,
have
that
this,
is awesome.
yeah, so you had to just do something else with that line that was
Yeah.
out of the lines. You just
That's
had to
cool.
deal with it and not stress out about it. And it was, yeah, it's really not. And even now, like I went to a life drawing class last week with my art teacher. She does them once every few months. And there was cheese and wine and two women, like two nude, they like life drawing people. Like this is what they do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know what to call
I
them.
don't know.
But I was drawing and then I used charcoal and I fully made a lot of mistakes just getting the angles of the body and all of that. But you just smudge the charcoal and it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a shadow. And then I moved on to the
That's
leg.
cool.
Like I didn't have a tantrum and like find a new piece of paper. I just worked with what I had.
That's
And it
awesome.
ended up being really nice. Like I was actually really proud of my life drawing.
That's
And I've never done
fantastic.
life drawing before, but I just went with all the mistakes.
That is so cool. I'm going to remember that for
Yeah.
myself, but also
Yeah.
with Ava as well.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. There were no rubbers allowed.
That's good. I like it. So, what are three fun facts about you that people might not know?
So, three fun facts. I used to horse ride my whole life from when I was about, the first time I was on a horse, I was 3 or 4. And it's
Wow.
this beautiful photo, and I'm like this tiny tot on this
Oh,
huge horse
it's gorgeous.
um, at my grandparents' great grandparents' farm in South Africa.
Wow.
And the horse was called Cherry. It was just written
Oh.
back Cherry. And the second fact, I met my husband and met Nick, and then like within 4 days, I knew I was going to marry him, and we hadn't even kissed or gone on a date or
Oh,
anything.
I love that.
Yeah, so that was lovely. And the third fun fact is, oh, when I was little, 4 or 5, I would only answer to Samantha. Like everyone at school, my teachers had to call me Samantha. And it's funny because that is now my youngest sister's name. So either my
Oh, of
mom said she
course.
loves it, and I was like, well, then I'll be Samantha, or I started using it. I don't know what came first. And then I think after that, because my full name is Cassie Dion, like my middle name's Dion, but I'd wanted my mom and dad to call me Cassandra. After I got over Samantha, I was like, call me Cassandra. And when I was 4, I wanted my mom to change my name by deed poll to Cassandra, and she thought I was just
Oh my God, I
like
love it.
mucking around because I'd been only answering to Samantha for so long, and she didn't take it seriously, so she never changed my name. So people ask me still, is your full name Cassandra? And I'm like, no, it's Cassie. But maybe one day I'll change it to Cassandra.
I love that.
And my
Well,
cousin in London, when she was younger, she would only answer to Max. Just for a little
oh,
period.
kids. That's
She's a
so
little girl.
funny.
Well, now she's a big girl, but she would only answer to Max.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I love it. Well, I learned 2 things in that last fact about you. I assume that your name was short for Cassandra. So
Yeah,
there we
everyone
go.
does.
Oh, I love
Sorry,
it.
no.
It's just Cassie.
It's just Cassie.
It's like I've got a cousin and his name's Matt, and it's just Matt. It's not Matthew or anything
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, same thing. It happens, people.
Yeah. So
Love
funny.
it.
Yeah.
So I want to get into your beautiful book, You Are Enough. I love it. It is such a good
Thanks.
book. What inspired it?
So, well, 2 things. Firstly, I've always known that I was going to be an author from when I was very young. Because I was so obsessed with horses, I thought that I would write a book about horses. But so I've always had that in me of knowing I would write a book. And then when I started my nutrition and kinesiology business, so my private practice, I started in 2011. By 2012, 2013, it was a lot of it. Either I just started to notice it, or there was a big boom in health coaches and life coaches and Not so much naturopaths yet. That feels like it's slowly coming out more now. Lots of people studying natural medicine. But I started to compare myself to all of these people. I started to become more aware of them. So I think for me, all of a sudden I became aware of all these people who were doing a similar thing to me. And not that they've been doing it for even that much longer than me. I just, for whatever reason, became very fixated on comparing myself and every aspect of my business to what they were doing. So my website to their website, my blog post to their blog post. My Instagram wasn't even a thing yet. Thank God. I probably would have like spontaneously combusted if Instagram was a thing when I was going through what I was going through. So I'm grateful for that. But on Facebook, like anywhere where people were online, if I was just comparing myself, but so badly to the point of absolute, like I just had no value. Like I could not value what I was doing. I was still working. I was studying. It was a really big year for me. So that was probably around the year I was studying the masters, studying kinesiology. Probably around the year we got married and all of that. So there was just like a lot on my plate, and I kept piling this comparison on my plate as well. And I was burning myself out. I was working nonstop. I didn't ever work late at night. I'm not a late night kind of worker, but I would work from very early in the morning all day. So it was easily still a 12-hour day. Plus I would work weekends. Plus I was studying 2 courses.
Wow.
Plus I was doing my first I was writing my first online program. I think I'd just written 1 or 2 ebooks. I was starting to talk at corporate events. So I had my first big corporate event that was very stressful and very exciting, but like very stressful because I had to make a PowerPoint and like be all corporate, and I was just
very fancy.
Very fancy. And also I knew that I'd be talking to people who they weren't necessarily my usual or regular or ideal client. So it was going to be half men, half women. They were much older. You know, at the time I was 24 or 25. So like I was a young'un. So like to go into a corporate and talk about health and wellness was quite overwhelming. Yeah. So it was in the middle of writing my first ebook, which was called Cleansed. And that was when I got so stuck in comparison that I lost my voice. So not my voice, but like energetically, I just could not write. I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't know what my message was. I didn't know how I wanted to say it or who I was trying to talk to. And for about 6 weeks, I just couldn't write anything. And for me as a writer, that's a really long time. Like to sit down and just be so confused and overwhelmed. And even if I looked at other people's work, I didn't want to make the whole book about other people's work and reference a bajillion things. But I also felt like without someone's work, I couldn't write anything. So I wasn't trusting that I had enough information to write. And it was around this time that I just said, I have to stop looking at other people's work. I have to stop going on social media. I have to stop scrolling through news feeds. I have to stop reading other people's blogs. I can go online and like someone's thing or leave a comment once in a while and reply to my own social media comments. But I just took the biggest step back. And the way I explain it in my book and wherever else I've spoken about it is doing that, going online all the time and scrolling and like staying so focused on other people's stuff was akin to me rubbing salt in a wound. Like it's so painful. And salt's actually probably better because salt is at least a bit healing. But like there's nothing healing about what I was doing. And it was just shocking. Like I was just putting myself down. Every time I sat on my computer and looked at someone else's work, the negative thoughts that would come up and like the awful self-talk of just berating myself and this deep feeling of lack. So, she's got a beautiful website, so I'll never have a nice website. Or she's written a blog post about B vitamins, so I'll never be able to write a post about B vitamins. Like, not that I wrote a post about B vitamins, but you know what I mean? Like, if someone had it, well, tough, I can't have it then. Like, that was my thought. And I was also it was just really not fun at all. So I just somehow slowly but very painfully realized this over the course of that year. And I did that whole big stepping back thing. And so I ended up writing my book, which was really well received. People loved it. Like it really felt like a very good reflection of me. It was still very much a reflection of me as a naturopath and nutritionist. So I've actually taken it down for sale in the last year because my work has changed so much and it's so much more holistic. Not that nutrition and naturopathy isn't, because it is, but I was really looking much more at the physical, and now I look at mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. So that's the reason why the book's not up for sale anymore. But it still sits there as a reminder to me of when you look at other people's work so much, too much, you cannot create your own. Mm. So when I wrote my book, which I also have here,
Yay.
I made a very clear, actually not even just my book, but all the work since then comes from me. And if I need to reference something, like if I need a piece of content, or I know that I'm going to be writing about a specific herb and I need to find a piece of research information about it, I will only search for information once I know what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I'll say, oh, I need a study on rhodiola because I want to explain why I know it is so good for XYZ. So then I'll look for that. If you just go and you're like, oh, I just need some information on herbs, and you just look to Google, oh, it's just a rabbit hole that you will just get sucked down and you won't come back up for a long time. So that's something that is, and it just keeps it neat and contained. And so that's why when I wrote specifically, or especially my book, I wrote all of it, and then if I needed to reference something or quote something, then I would search for that quote.
Yeah.
But not until I'd written 99% and I knew what I was looking for. And I would often, while I was writing the draft, I would put like a highlighted section that said, find a quote on XYZ. Because it's just, it gives you a framework. And if you get off track, you know what you have a goal.
Yeah.
As opposed to being like, just someone help me, Google. It's very, it's not good. It's too gray.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's, and now like I don't think anyone is immune to comparison. I just have if it starts to come across, I know a few things. It means that I need to do like my own little maybe kinesiology balance or something on bringing me back into an abundant mindset, or knowing that there is enough for me. Or most likely it's a trigger to show me that there's something that I'm not doing that I want to be doing. Yeah. And now when it's so different, because if I see something, I can feel so happy for that person and not push myself down, and I can find my own compass again and be like, so where am I not directing myself, where part of me is like, hey, you could be doing this too. And I always know there is room for me. And even when I was a makeup artist in my very first week in Canada, when I lived in Toronto, the head teacher came and talked to us, and he said, if you look around this room, you might all feel like you're competitors, but actually you've all got to be friends and work together, because if you get a really great gig job but you can't do it, you're going to pass it on to your friend who you went to school with, because that's the makeup artist you know. True. And if she can't do it, she'll give it to this person. And there is always, he said this and I will never forget it, he said there is always room at the top.
Love it.
Yeah. And awesome. So even a couple years ago, when I was just getting so many press requests, like interview requests, if there were ones that I couldn't do, or I didn't like the topic, and I didn't want to align myself to topics that I didn't love, because then you become an expert in something that you don't want to write about. I would refer to friends who I knew loved talking about those topics. And I remember I would refer to one friend quite frequently, and she sent me this crystal once, actually, as like a thank you.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. She sent me this crystal, and she was like, thank you so much for referring me to people. And so instead of me saying to a journalist, sorry, I can't help you.
Yeah, that's it.
I can't help you, but so-and-so can.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's so much nicer.
Absolutely. I love that, especially in this realm that we're in, the wellness realm. Yeah. I think if it was Kylie 5 years ago, I would have had that different mindset of, oh, we're competitors, I can't be friends with that, and da-da-da-da-da. Okay. But I love that we all kind of embrace each other, support each other, and you kind of, similar to what your teacher said, there's enough clients and people in the world for us all to be successful.
Yeah.
I love it.
And when you can change that mindset, it's just a much nicer vibration and place to live in. Definitely. Because, and the truth is, where was I reading this the other day? Someone said it's actually a book called Rework. It's amazing. And it's about changing the way you work and not playing to rules and all of that. It's really, and it was just in a chapter where he was saying, let your clients outgrow you. Like, it's better to If one client wants you to keep changing to suit their growing needs, but you do a specific thing really well. He said there are so many more clients who haven't worked with you yet. So it's the same kind of thing. Like you might be stressing that there aren't enough clients for you, and that one client, if they're going to be just choosing between if they go to you or this other person, if they don't come to you, it's not because you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're never going to have a client again, or you're never going to, or whatever it is, whether it's business or personal, because there are so many other people who haven't worked with you yet. So there is this limitless amount of people who could be around to work with you, or who could be reading your blogs or buying your products or whatever. So yeah, it's a much nicer place to be thinking from.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Going back to comparison, because I've been in a similar state to what you were, probably not quite as bad, but getting overwhelmed with everything. And like you, I got to a stage of feeling like there's coaches everywhere, and oh my God, how am I going to stand out? And comparing yourself on social media, and I don't have as many followers, or da 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 da, and it's just this whole, it's horrible. It's a horrible thing to go through. And I think I was able to realize that I was going down that hole and bring myself back up. So like on Facebook, I sent love to all my friends who have businesses, but I unliked their pages because I felt like I'd lost my voice as a blogger and as a business owner. So just those little things were really helpful for me to just say, I'm sorry, but I can't be on your email list, and I can't follow you on Facebook. Well, maybe in the future, but right now I just can't. But also comparison comes up a lot as a mum. So, are you doing the right thing by your child? Or that mum's doing that. Should my child be doing this? And da-da-da. Do you have a lot of mum clients that you see that are suffering from comparison, and any tips for them?
Well, I don't have a lot of mum clients per se. Maybe just because I'm not a mum yet. I don't know. Maybe that'll change. But I just know I have a lot of friends who have, some of my friends have one baby, some have two. Like a friend this morning just actually had her second little girl this morning. So, but I think there's so many things. I think with motherhood, this is just what I get from friends talking to me, and like mothers group gossip, which is probably not, it's a good word for it, I guess, but maybe not a nice thing to be involved in if it happens often. But I think mums are always you're obviously going to think your baby's like the best and the greatest and doing the most. So I think that comparison might just be either like a pride thing, like my baby's doing this, is your baby walking yet, or something like that. But also it can be a veil. Like if someone, and I'm not saying this specifically for motherhood, but if someone is struggling in one area of their life, they might try to make another element seem really, really, really shiny and perfect. And
that's so true. Yes.
Amazing. So they might be having issues with their husband or money stuff, or they might not be sleeping at all, but they're like, oh, but little Timmy's sleeping amazingly. How's Billy? So I think that you kind of have to take that kind of stuff with a grain of salt. And also know that people don't often tell you everything. They're not going to tell you the whole side of it. So they might show you, and there's that whole idea of if someone's only showing you the absolute perfection of their lives, then what are they hiding? Like, why aren't they not being a little bit more vulnerable and open about it? So I think if you see that, you could be the one who could say to them, is everything really okay? Like, let's go for coffee, you and me, not in mother's group, and let's talk, because they might be hiding something. They might not be, but if everything's so peachy keen all the time,
that's not real life.
Or if it isn't, if they're just trying to show you that it's always peachy keen, but So, but I think even just, and you know what, if you're part of a group of women who are very nitpicky and very comparing of children, get out. Like find a new mother's group, create your own mother's group, where one of the, rules of joining is we don't compare our babies, and we don't talk about how many hours our baby slept last night and how many solids they're eating. Like just about other things. Mother's group could be a book club. It doesn't have to just be about babies.
Yes.
You could read a new book I don't know how long it would take to read a new book with a new baby, but maybe 6 months per one book, or audio book. So it could be other things than just discussing baby stuff.
Definitely. I love that. I love that because I was never a mother's group person because I had heard all the horror stories of comparison and all that, and I was just like, I don't want to be part of that, and I don't want Ava to be part of that. Like, we don't need that. She'll do her things when she wants to do her things, and she's ready and stuff the rest of them. So I've got a group of friends, and we've all got kids except one, but she's pregnant now, which is exciting. So we just decided to do our own little catch-ups every 2 or 3 weeks, and it's got nothing to do with our talking about children and babies. Our kids all get to play with each other and see each other regularly, and we get to talk about all other stuff. So I love that tip of just make your own mother's group, and you don't have to go down that
and you can
path.
set rules, like you can say we don't allow XYZ, and if you start comparing you have to put $10 in the comparing jar. I don't know, you could you can set boundaries with people and enforce them nicely.
Absolutely, definitely. Going back to your beautiful book, how did it all come together? What are some of the behind the scenes of a book? Is like, I love reading and I've always been a bookworm, so I can only imagine how much hard work and time went into it.
It's so funny. If it almost feels like, I think, what late childbirth would be like, because you forget the pain of it and then you're ready for another.
You're just like, it's popped out, look, done. And the rest of the stuff is just like gone. Yes.
So, but to be honest, there was, I think because last year when I wrote the book, there were so many other things that were going on in other elements of my business that were quite challenging. So for me, writing the book was one of the easiest things that I did last year. And that's on a scale. So it's relative compared to everything else that was happening. So I really loved writing it. And I did it in such a way that I didn't put a ton of pressure on myself. I didn't have a very strict deadline. I had a deadline from the publisher, but that was like absolutely months away, that I would have had to, like, I knew 100% I'd get it done way before the deadline. So that wasn't a worry at all for me. And I pretty much had a very simple outline of what I was writing, and simple in that it was, the chapter name and then 4 to 5 dot points of topic, or what I would write about. And the reason I did it that way, and that was guidance from my publisher, they just said, write it as if think of each chapter as like 5 blog posts.
Okay.
And then, so you think of writing, at the time, I think my outline was like 10 or 12 chapters. It's now like 30 something, I forget, because I shortened a lot of them.
Yeah.
So now it's 32, and then there's some concluding pages, but it's, some chapters are 1 or 2 pages, some are 5 or 6. So it varies depending on what the chapter is. But So I sat down and I just pretty much wrote from chapter 1 down to the end. I did jump around a little bit. I would wake up early, go to yoga, like a 6 a.m. yoga class, or walk along the beach. So it was winter when I wrote, so it was actually really cozy, because I'd often bundle myself up, get a coffee, listen to a podcast, and just do a few laps of Bondi on the promenade. And I would go back to the coffee shop or come home, and I would write for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And I just did that very slowly. So I didn't sit down and eyes to the screen and not get up for 10 hours a day. And I still saw clients in the afternoon, and I still did other things. And I had like still a very rich life outside of, people talk about the writing cave. I was in my writing cave for 1 to 2 hours a day, and then I was out. And that to me it really felt beautiful, because I still was very involved in, like, obviously, or every day I was doing stuff for the book, but I might have been thinking about, amazing ideas often come to us in those spaces in between. So I made sure I had a lot of spaces in between. There were definitely a few days where I didn't write anything at all, but I did pretty much write at least 1,000 words every day, which was one of my goals, like a very light goal, 1,000 words a day. And there was a period where I started to get a little bit overwhelmed and felt very writer's blocky. And that was when I had started sending some chapters to my publisher for them to have a look at. And when I got them back, there was only a small amount of feedback for the first 2. And I started to change the first couple of chapters while I was writing chapter 5 or 6. And that, it's such a different mindset and brain space and energy of the writing, like just get it all out, and the editing. And it was in that moment where I just started to feel quite blocked, because I was trying to do 2 things at once. So I took a really big step back. I emailed my publisher, and I'm like, I'm just going to send you everything at the end. Is that okay? Like it was just too hard to do it at the same time. And they're
Yeah.
like, sure, no worries. So once I could do that, I got found my flow again. Um, and I think it happened like one more time where it wasn't the writing so much, it was the structure. I just had to restructure some chapters and move stuff around. And in that was like a day or two of it felt like I was wrangling with the words a little bit. And then again, I found that flow again. So yeah, it was just a really beautiful process. And I'm so, yeah, I'm just so happy that it all turned out that way.
Yeah.
Would have been there if it was hard anyway, but I liked it feeling how it felt. Yeah.
I love the sound of that process
Yeah.
because, yeah, like I said, I love books, and just the thought of even writing a book seems really scary. But you still doing your stuff and just allowing yourself an hour or two a day to just
Yeah.
write some words, but
Yeah.
still giving yourself that space, like you said, to let those amazing gems come forward
Yeah.
instead of just like being in that cave for 12 hours and oh my god, I've got
Yeah.
to write, because
Yeah.
that to me just sounds really claustrophobic. And
Totally. And it's
yeah.
not, and I've got a quote on my pinboard here by Todd Henry, who's an author that I love. And he says, oh, where is it? No one writes a section of a book. They only write sections that eventually become a book. And he
Oh
actually
wow.
wrote that on my Instagram when I posted on the very first day that I was starting my book, and I tagged him with one of his quotes from one of his books.
Yeah.
And he wrote that to me, which was
Oh
amazing. So
wow.
anytime I felt that overwhelm creeping in, I
Mm-hmm.
just pretended I was writing a blog post, and I just
Yeah.
was like, cool, I just have to write 500 more words and I'm done.
Yeah.
And I
That's
kept a
awesome.
tally every day of how many words I'd written. So if I ever, which was kind of like an insurance policy against negative thoughts of, oh, you can't do this is terrible, you can't write anything, you're making no progress. Because I could look back to last week and say, well, last week I had 8,000 words and now I have 16. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, I love that.
Ego.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Back at
that was
you.
really, yeah. So that was really awesome because it was just so nice to be able to flick back through my diary and say, that's where I was then, this is where I am now, so this is where I'll be next week,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. It
Well,
was
that makes
nice.
it sound so much nicer. Who knows? Maybe I'll
Yeah.
become an author one day with that
Yeah.
type of process. That sounds so nice.
It was really nice. It makes me excited to write my next book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Look
Yeah.
at you. I'm so proud of you, author
Thank you.
Cassie. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, I would love for you to share like a tool or a piece of advice or a tip that the beautiful ladies watching can
Yeah.
implement into their lives to
Yeah.
make something easier or flow or whatever it may be.
So I was actually meant to get my Oracle cards. Do you want to hold on one
Yeah,
second?
go for it.
Hold
Go
on.
for it.
So these Oracle cards, I love using Oracle cards,
Me too.
or Angel
Best.
cards. Yeah, so good. So I use them. I'll often pull, like here on my desk, I've got two cards from two different decks, and I'll often pull one to start my week off, or if I'm starting a new project, or if I'm feeling stuck in a project. And the insight that they bring is so beautiful, and it's such a nice way to just come back to, like, it cuts out all that negative chit chat and the ego talk and all of that, and it gets you back to a sign or a symbol or a message or something that just feels grounding and beautiful. So the best example I can give is and I write about this in the book, during a moment in the book when I felt very, it was like that time where I felt very confused about what I was saying, and this is terrible, and how am I doing this? And I went to pull one of my cards, and it was a life purpose deck, and I shuffle, 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 and I'll show you how to shuffle and use them quickly. And I pulled a card, and it was writing,
Oh,
and it was like, your gifts
amazing.
or your words inspire other, whatever it was. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, I got this. And I just
It's
kept
a little
writing.
kick in the bum, a little
A little
nudge.
bit,
Yeah,
yes.
love
So
it.
this deck is from my friends at the Little Sage.
Oh, I love those cards. They're beautiful.
So this is how and if you get these cards, and I just pulled these cards because I use them probably the most at it, but I have lots of card decks, but I love these. Helen, who created the cards, she'll give you like information on how to use them,
Awesome.
and how to, yeah. But what I do with clients and with myself is I'll hold the deck. You usually want to set intentions for the deck as a whole initially. So you might like sit and meditate for a moment when you get a brand new card deck, and you might just say, It's my intention that these cards always bring up the purest and most aligned message for me or whoever's using them or something like that. They will anyway, but it's just nice.
Yeah.
I always give them 3 taps or 3 knocks to clear the energy of the last person who pulled them.
Oh, I'll have to remember that.
Yeah, it's really nice. Because you know what? I used to not do that. And I remember one time I was using cards and I pulled the same card 3 times in a row. And I'm like, I get that I could be needing this card 3 times, but I also feel like something's happening where it's just the same.
Yeah.
And then I think I was talking to a friend that week and she was like, oh no, I always tap them 3 times.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
So when I give them to a client or in a session with a kinesiology session with a client, I'll always muscle test, do I need to pull for the client or does the client need to pull for themselves?
Yeah.
So I'll say to the client, 3 taps, shuffle, shuffle, pull. So 3 taps. So I'll pull one now for for the listeners for now.
Perfect.
And that's the thing, because I'm pulling this not for myself, not for you. I'm saying this is for the collective of whoever's watching today or listening. So the card that pulled out was a new perspective.
Ooh.
But I pulled it up upside down, meaning there's a tiny block to whatever's going on here. And then you go to the booklet and you read. So I'll just read a little bit of it. So it says, imagine before you there's a forest. You know that you must move through it, but from your current perspective, standing right in front of you, it seems too dark and scary. You fear you may easily become lost if you were to blindly set out to the forest. This is exactly what we spoke about as well. It says, now imagine stepping back from the forest and gaining a new perspective. Perhaps climbing one of the trees to see over the forest. From this vantage point, you see it's not actually so scary or dark. And no matter which steps you take, you can easily make your way through to the other side.
Wow. I needed to hear that card, actually.
There's a little bit more. I'll read it because it's actually for our chat.
Go for it.
Said this card prompts you to gain a new perspective, a higher viewpoint of yourself, of others, or your situation right now. Detach from your current viewpoint and begin to see your life from the loving eyes of your guides or angels. From this viewpoint, your outlook of your life and your circumstances is no longer limited. You'll recognize the learning opportunity and that this moment too shall pass. A change in perspective brings a change in understanding, and this growth allows change in the situation before you. And the affirmation is, I now see my situation from a higher viewpoint with loving eyes. The bigger picture and answers are now revealed to me.
Wow. And I just got goosebumps. It's like spot on for our chat today.
Exactly. And that's all happened. You don't know how many times, often in a session, a card might, let's say it comes up at the end of the session. So many times when I'm reading it to the client, we'll both burst out laughing because it's like, word for word what we've just said, or it'll be one of their kinesiology goals word for word in the card reading. So it's like this reflection of what's coming back to you. And even this, like getting a new perspective, knowing this too shall pass, knowing there's a lesson in what you're going through. And that's exactly what comparison is. Firstly, it will pass. Secondly, it is a lesson. Thirdly, step back and it's not so dark and scary.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. Because I've had a session with you over Skype and a lot of it was about my business and my confidence in myself, and the cards that you pulled for me were all to do with that. And like, I was just like, oh my God, they just amaze me every single time. Oracle
it's
cards.
Incredible. And even like, because I have so many card decks here that when you're like this, I chose to use this deck, but often you'll be told which deck to choose through the kinesiology session. And then when the card comes up and it's so right, you're like, that's even more crazy because there are 10 decks here. In each deck, there's like 40 to 60 cards.
Yeah.
And then this was the one card that I needed.
Yeah. It just blows my mind. They're just amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I love it.
For asking that question, because then I got to play with my cards.
Yay. So we'll finish up with this last question. So what is coming up for Cassie in your business, personal life? What's the future hold?
So on a personal level, I'm turning 30 in July, so I'm going to celebrate that. And it's my sister's wedding in September. So there's all like lovely family things this year.
Beautiful.
And business-wise, I really want to I want to start my next book in the next few months. I've started, I have ideas, so I really want to start writing that. I obviously want to keep spreading the message about you are enough so that more and more people can remember that and feel that and live from that space. And then I've got a few little projects, not big at all, little things that to do with my online courses and all of that. But otherwise, seeing clients, speaking when those opportunities come up, and just doing all my work from a space of going slower and ease and having lots of space in between to do other things as well, not just work, because that burnt me out a few years ago. So I'm very good now and getting better all the time at not balancing. I don't like work-life balance. I don't think it's a thing, but just doing both, and doing it with boundaries and love, and just making things like easier for me.
Yeah, perfect. And last question, how does Cassie want to be remembered? That's a biggie.
I don't, well, good question. I guess as someone who loves being around people and like being with family and friends, because that is always just so important. And someone who, like, even something that was said at my book launch party by my friend, which was so lovely, and you don't really think about it because when it's you don't know how the people perceive you. But she said something about how when she's with me, she feels so comfortable and she feels like she's known me forever when she met me. And that's what how I'd like people to remember, because it's like, being able to make people feel comfortable in your presence. There's that whole thing of people don't remember what you said, they remember how you've made them feel.
Yes.
So that's how I'd like to be remembered.
That's beautiful. I love that. And since I've known you, I feel that way about you. Like, our friendship just happened online, just randomly. And, you've had my back and I'm always there cheering you on. And
Thank you.
And I also remember that same friend of yours saying at your book launch that she's never heard you say a mean thing about anybody, and that is so true. I could just tell with who you are and your energy, you're just a beautiful, loving person, and you just, want to spread love in the world, and I think you do that so well. So it's beautiful, Cassie, and very, very privileged to have you in my life. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'll tell you, on that note, there was like about the word like gossiping, because I'm Jewish, I went to a Jewish school, and there was like a story, I don't know where it came from, but something about in Judaism where gossiping is like standing on a hill, a cliff, and throwing out feathers everywhere. Like it's very easy to throw out a bag of feathers, but the part of the gossiping, it's like going back the next day and trying to pick up all the feathers. You'll never find them all. You don't know where they've gone. You don't know the impact they've had somewhere else where you'll never see it, but they've still floated somewhere off.
Yeah.
And that image has been in my mind since I was little.
Yeah.
Of, if you say really unkind things about people, you just don't know where it will go.
That's so true.
And you can't pull it back.
Yeah. Once it's out, it's out.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for this beautiful chat, Cassie. It's been so lovely talking with you and talking about your lovely book, and it's beautiful. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll speak again very soon.
Yes.
Thank you. Much love.
Thank you.
Bye.